Jupiter's Legacy arrives on Netflix as part of a wave of new media trying to capitalize on the superhero boom without drawing on the reserves of intellectual property that Disney enjoys through ownership of Marvel, or that Warner Bros. Maintain through control of DC. Following the end of Netflix's deal with Marvel, Jupiter's Legacy effectively serves the same function that The Tick, The Boys, and Invincible fulfill for Amazon, drawing from a third-party publisher to create superhero content. Jupiter's Legacy is based on the work of writer Mark Millar and artist Frank Quitely. Millar has already had considerable influence on the superhero film and television genre, owing to film adaptations of his creator-owned work like Wanted or Kick-Ass, not to mention the billion-dollar adaptation of Civil War within and the influence of the Ultimates upon the MCU. Millar and Quitely's Jupiter's Legacy was written in response to the financial crisis of 2008, as an attempt to situate the superhero genre in terms of a financial crisis that echoed the Great Depression from which the genre originally emerged. With the assistance of other artists on spin-off series Jupiter's Circle and Requiem, Millar and Quitely's entire epic extends to a meager 24 issues. This limited scope illustrates a challenge in adapting the series to screen as a potentially expansive ongoing series. This is all important in terms of contextualizing some of the problems with Jupiter's Legacy. It is very clear that Netflix imagines the show as a springboard to a larger epic, and so it suffers from the familiar issues with Netflix shows where the entire first season feels like an 8-hour pilot. Netflix's branding describes the season as the first volume, rather than the first season. A 5-page fight from the first issue of the comic becomes a thematic and narrative motivating incident for the entire season, while the straightforward origin story is stretched across the first season in flashbacks, to the point that the entire first season doesn't reach the end of the source material's second issue. The pace is sluggish and indulgent, especially given that the adaptation is extending the plotting of a comic book writer who is already known for his tendency towards decompression. This is not to suggest that Jupiter's Legacy is unfaithful to its source material. After all, many of the best works inspired by Millar's writing take a loose approach to the art of adaptation. Jupiter's Legacy draws very heavily from the comic, often borrowing specific imagery and dialogue. However, its attempt to extend less than 2 issues of plot to fill a whole season are frustrating. Jupiter's Legacy struggles to populate any of that extra space with interesting ideas, largely eschewing Millar's attempts to explore superheroes as a reflection of American self-image in favor of tired debates about the ethics of superheroes killing. This is all stuff that has been done elsewhere, and better. The season is unfocused and uneven, perhaps the result of the departure of showrunner Stephen S. DeKnight halfway through production. To be fair, the production itself is impressive, particularly the show's emphasis on actual costumes and practical makeup effects. More than that, there are moments when interesting possibilities shine through, as Jupiter's Legacy teases a weird genre intersection between a familiar superhero saga and a generational soap opera like Dynasty, Dallas, Yellowstone, and even Leonardo DiCaprio's favourite, Bloodline. Sadly, in terms of alternative superhero television, Jupiter's Legacy lacks the wit of The Tick, the cynical insight of The Boys, or the affectionate enthusiasm of Invincible. Ultimately, Jupiter's Legacy never takes flight. Jupiter's Legacy will be available on Netflix from the 7th of May.